this is a Divine Beast level design concept for Zelda Breath of the Wild. Please note that this is a blockout made in Unity, so the art and mechanics aren't fully coded in. Thank you for your patience. For some background, we have a Divine Beast in the shape of an Emperor Penguin called the Dyrac. The associated race is the Alcori. They are also penguins. Although they are a subspecies of the Rito clan, they are flightless, but they are very skilled at belly riding across the ice. In terms of characters, we have our champion, Dyrac. She is graceful, loyal and disciplined. We also have our helper, Tiro. He is competitive and enjoys doing stunts, but he's also very loyal. Now our battle will have 3 phases, just like traditional Zelda Divine Beast levels. The first phase will be combat before entering the Divine Beast. The second phase will be activating the terminals. Usually there are 5 terminals. And the final phase is the boss fight on top of the Divine Beast. Our enemy will be Ice Blight Ganon, since our theme is ice and we are located in the Hebra region. This is phase 1 of the level. Before we enter the Divine Beast, we will need to do some combat to enter. Link will be shield surfing to keep up with Dyrac, who is skating around this rink. We have to consider a way to keep momentum going. That's why I decided to do a convex circular arena. Another way for Link to get momentum is that our helper Tiro will give him a little boost, and that will push him forward. The player must time these jumps. What makes this different to the Varnaboris fight, which also features shield surfing, is that the player must keep track of timing his jumps for momentum and combat, rather than just riding a seal. There will also be ramps placed about, so Link can enter bullet time. In terms of combat, there are skating guardians circling around the Divine Beast. These are new enemies not seen before, and Link must shoot them while aiming at their weak spot using bomb arrows. If the player struggles, then Tiro can take out any of these. Together, these enemies form a barrier around the Divine Beast, so it's important to take all of them out. These enemies can also spawn ice blocks, which get in the way of the player. The player can either shoot them to shatter them, or just avoid them. After the shield is down, the Divine Beast will slide into the middle of the arena, like so, and Tiro will give Link a final boost, and he must shoot his neck. Tiro will leave, and the Divine Beast will continue circling around this arena. This is the beginning of phase 2, where we need to find 5 terminals and activate them. Here is the spawn platform that the player can teleport to, and here is the initial terminal that the player interacts with. Upon interacting with that, Dyrac the champion will give us a few words about how we need to first find the map. Please note that this character was not created by me. This is the dynamic parkour system by Èric Canela. Now we can enter the Divine Beast, and we can see everything is out in the open. Usually the traditional Divine Beasts have segmented areas, but I thought for this one I'll make it open plan. So it was a challenge to create different zones for each puzzle, but I think it was done well, and with some proper lighting it will be more clear. It is also important to highlight the different colours. This blue here is an icy surface, this pink is magnetic, this lighter blue signifies water, and green is a climbable surface. Our champion would have told us that this is where the map terminal is, and so we need to make our way over there. However, we will run into an enemy. Usually Divine Beasts have 1 or 2 enemies, and they are placed near the entrance, so this one follows suit. After defeating that enemy, we want to make our way up here. I felt as though Cryonis was not used as much in Breath of the Wild, so for this Divine Beast I included it in much more puzzles. So here we spawn a Cryonis block, and we can climb up here. And then make our way to the map terminal. We can activate this. Then we will be given controls for the Divine Beast. There are two positions, the belly position, which it's on now, and the feet position, it will be standing upright. Also the wings are toggleable. Now when on the belly position, the Divine Beast will still be skating around the ice. So if we look down here, we could actually see the floor, and there will be wind blowing upwards. Also, particle wise, there will be snow flowing through the gaps. If you fall down there, the player will die. We can test this out. The whole Divine Beast moves. Now it's on its feet position. Everything's upright. And we can go back to its belly. That's the controls. The first puzzle is here. I call this the ball puzzle. We need to get this ball into here to open the terminal gate. This puzzle requires you to be on the belly position. As you can see, there's water down here. Now, an important thing about this position is that when the penguin is moving forward, to conserve momentum, everything will move back. So as the player being on an icy surface, you will actually slide backwards. It's important for the player to keep track of that. And of course this ball will begin to move as well. It will move backwards. Now there's water down there, so as you can guess, we need to use cryonis to get the ball into the goal. We can spawn a path as so. This is an example of a path. The ball will automatically move, so we need to use stasis to guide the ball where it needs to go. It may be difficult for players to get this in the first attempt because the ball could easily roll off or get stuck in the gaps like this. Near the end, I made sure not to make this part water because the player could just move the ball there and then spawn a cryonis block and get it into there. It's also important to remember that we can only have 3 blocks at a time due to the Zelda mechanics. This means the players must be creative in where they place their blocks. There's also a crystal up here which can be used to spawn another ball. This next puzzle involves using momentum to activate the switches. We've seen a similar mechanic in Meadow. Since we have 2 wings, I decided to have 2 sides that we need to activate. Now we can see how toggling the wings works. So right now the wings are closed, but now they're open. Of course we'll have to bring something down from there. If we jump over to this right wing, we can see there's a crystal there. When we hit that crystal, it will actually spawn an ice block, and the ice block must slide all the way down and hit here without any obstacles. But there are obstacles, there are gaps. We can fill these gaps with cryonis and spawn an ice block down, and it will hit this one. This gap is intentional. I think it means less friction down the ramp. Over on this side, we again have a ram that we need, but there are obstacles in the way. This time we need to move them using magnesis. But for these ones, it's better not to just throw them off the edge. If we close the wings, then we can see that it connects up, so it will be more clever to use magnesis here. We can keep the blocks. Just in case the player does throw them off the cliff or they lose the ram, then there will be a crystal that can respawn the items. Now this is almost completed, but as you may notice, the terminal is quite high up. There's a bit of a platform below it. So how can we access this? If you look here, you'll see that this is blocked off, but this is not blocked off. The staircase shape was intentional. So we can use this one specifically and place it here, and then we can access that terminal. The next puzzle is this massive gears puzzle. So it looks like we need to have the penguin on its feet to do this, but some parts might be useful to do on the belly position. This crystal over here will activate this, and a ball will spawn and fall down, and it will come here. We need that ball into this goal over here. Originally, this 1, 2, 3, these are the main components that they won't be in the correct position. We need to rotate these gears from here using this pink magnetic lever and turn it to where it needs to be. Initially these will be frozen over and the player needs to melt them with fire arrows. These three also need to be stabilized by cryonis blocks. Since the ball is too heavy, if it hits them they will turn and the ball won't go where it is required to go. This puzzle was inspired by the Hadahama shrine, and although that is 2D against the wall, this one requires the ball to come away from the wall and towards the wall, so it will actually roll down here and down here. A solution for this puzzle is as so. Putting the blocks in these positions means these won't turn, and the ball will flow in the correct direction. The path the ball needs to take is down here, and it will roll here and down here, then it will roll back. This direction is a red herring. The ball will get stuck if it goes there. And it will come down here, it will stop here and roll down. From this point, the player needs to use stasis. They need to be quite quick. They need to stop the ball here, so it rolls down this way, and then stop the ball back on this platform. So instead of flying down there, it will come down here. This might be quite difficult and it will require a lot of playtesting to get the lengths right. This puzzle also features two waterfalls. There's a water source here and a water source here, so that if the penguin changes orientation, the cryonis blocks will not snap or break. The next puzzle is golf inspired. It's up here. To get there, we can change from belly to feet to belly position, like this, and then back onto its belly. And here we are. This is slanted upwards so the player can see what's going on, although I've decided not to let the player see what's on top. There are some hidden switches and the player needs to find it out through trial and error. How this puzzle works is that an ice block will spawn in one of three positions, depending on the player's choice, and you need to hit the ice blocks using stasis into these holes. You will notice that some of these holes are diagonal. There's an object in the middle, and the player can move this left and right to where they want it to be, and that will help orient this ice block. Another reason for the slant, and also don't forget how the penguin moves objects backwards, is so that the player can be more meticulous with how many hits they use and the ice block won't go flying. We can also see that there's a gate in the way of some of the blocks further back. This can be melted if we hit the correct switch. We need to fill in the earlier holes if we want to get to the holes further back. Looking from here, we can see that there are three switches that are important. This one melts the gate, so it's an ice gate and fire will melt it. And this switch will just deactivate this fire. This fire is an obstacle and the player needs to time their shots so the ice block does not melt. Finally, this switch will open the terminal. There is also an ice block, a crystal here, which may undo shots or restart the whole thing depending on the game difficulty. A chest here will provide a high durability weapon. My concern with this puzzle is that players will run out of weapon durability. That's why it's important to provide weapons, otherwise it can be very frustrating for the player. For the fifth and final terminal, we need to make our way to the top of the penguin. We can get there through the wings. If we jump onto the wings like so, and then close them up again, we can actually see a platform that will help us reach the top. This is on both sides of the penguin. Now we can come back to the feet position, and opening up the wings again will reveal the next puzzle. This puzzle is actually mirrored on both sides. If we come to the other wing, we can see there is another version of this puzzle. The right wing is actually the easier version of this puzzle, and we have to complete that one first, and then we do the left wing. Then that will open up the head and show us the final terminal. I'll now give a quick demonstration on how to complete this puzzle. This puzzle is actually embedded into the wing. It's a refraction puzzle. We need to guide this laser beam into this crystal here, and that will activate the next part. The first part is already done, so this helps the player know what's going on. We need to move these pieces to the correct position. These are magnetic blocks that we can move along the tracks, and these ice blocks are also magnetic, we can move them around the tracks. These fire are obstacles that are in our way, and there are switches that activate gates. For this puzzle, I will first want to open this gate. We can do that by putting a weight on this switch and opening this gate. Now this gate is open, we can use this. But we have to be careful not to run into this fire. If we place this here, then that's in the perfect position, and a new beam will shine through. Now it's obvious that this one wants to go there, but we have this fire in the way. To deactivate that, we can put a weight on this switch. Magnetic blocks aren't affected by fire. We can use this here, and then with the correct timing move that there. This will be deactivated, so it's fine, and this will complete this puzzle. In case the player melts the ice blocks, there's a crystal here that will respawn them. Also, this wall in the way means the player cannot choose an easier solution. They have to do it the way it's intended. The other wing is slightly trickier. There's a lot more going on. There's definitely more gates. The main difference in this one is that we have ice gates as well, which can be melted with this fire source. The first thing we want to do is melt this gate, and that will give us access to this green switch. If we place a block on this switch, it will open this gate. Then we can take this out. We want to be careful not to melt that ice block. We may as well melt this while we're here. We can get rid of this. And this will give us a way to the goal. The next thing we want to do is maybe get a block in position here and we can see what's going on. This will spawn a new beam here. We want to put a block here as well. The only problem is that we have this fire in the way. We can block this off with a magnetic block, but it might be better to activate some more of these switches. Let's try and move this block over there. So if we move these out of the way, right, trying to avoid the fire. Then we can move this block here and open the purple gate. When we open the purple gate, we can take this out. That's free as well. The last gate we need to open is this blue one. We don't need this block here anymore. Once we take this out, then we're free to move this. If we move this over here, like so, we can open the blue gate. Now all the blocks are free, we just need to get them into position. This one will go here, nicely. We can put this block here to block off this fire. Now it's safe to move a block there. This moving fire is annoying, we have to wait for that to get past. We can move this into position and a new laser beam will form. Okay, the next one needs to go there. We can move this here, place that one there. Then the final laser beam, the final ice block can go there. Without this, this will just be a loop. This one will help us reach the goal. Upon completing this, the head will open up like this. We can go inside and reach the final terminal. All divine beasts have 7 chests inside of them, and this one is no exception. So the first chest is over here. Right here, we need to go from belly to feet to belly. We can access it. Chest number 2 is up there. We can spawn cryonis blocks and climb on them to reach it. Chest number 3 is here, next to the golf puzzle. Chest number 4 is here. To reach it, we climb through the wing and we can jump out. Chest number 5 is here, on the tail. Can reach it as so. Chest number 6 is here, on the right wing. It needs to be closed for us to reach it. The final chest is on the head. It's right on the tip of the beak. I also wanted to show a failed terminal design puzzle. So this is the glass maze. Before I did the refraction puzzle on the wings, I made this light refraction puzzle inside. So we need to get this laser to hit this crystal. Then we can stand on this platform which will raise, and we can activate the terminal. This puzzle relied on moving from the feet to the belly quite a lot, so we could climb certain spaces. And the fact that it was a glass maze meant the light could pass through, and it would also be difficult for the player to see where they're going, which obviously makes it harder. We have to move ice blocks into the correct position so the laser would reach this crystal. There are a few ice blocks that we need to move, and this is sort of inspires the golf puzzle that I stuck with. We need to hit that ice block through here to reach this, to move the ice block into this platform. I decided against this because it didn't look so great as a whole in the Divine Beast, so I got rid of it and included this golf puzzle instead. This is also better because it divides the Divine Beast into different zones, and it's easier for the player to see what's going on where. Right, this is separate from this. Before, when it was like this, it was more difficult to see what's going on. With the solid floor of the golf puzzle, it looks much better. Phase 3 features the fight against Ice Blight Ganon. When we activate this terminal, then the fight will begin. The player can get up here by climbing up this surface. This fight has 3 parts, each 33% of life will be taken from the enemy. Phase 1. This is the model of Ice Blight Ganon. So Ice Blight Ganon can spawn ice pillars, which Link can climb and shoot at him. They might start cracking, which indicates it's about to break, and new pillars will spawn at different heights. Ganon can also launch icicles at Link. That's what the player has to avoid. For part 2 of the fight, there will be less ice platforms spawning. Ganon will have icicles spawn around him that will rotate. This will make it harder for the player to aim correctly. The player can hit them to destroy them as well. Ganon can also spawn a massive icicle and slam it into the ground. That will create a shockwave, and the player must avoid that by climbing onto a platform. Since the theme is ice, we might also have a snowstorm begin to form, which will decrease visibility for the player. At 33% of life, Ganon will begin phase 3. He will slam an icicle into the ground, and Dyrac will tilt up as he roars. Notice that in the first 2 parts he was airborne, but now he's skating on the ground. The snowstorm might even be heavier at this point. The new attack mode is that he can spawn snowballs, which will start to roll down, and the player must avoid it or take damage. There's also an option to hit these snowstorms back. They might also spawn here so that the player can't just shield behind the terminal. Remember that the floor is icy, so movement will be a bit difficult and there's a greater risk at falling off. That is all for this divine beast concept. Thank you for your patience in this video. I realised I haven't coded the mechanics, so that made it more difficult to understand. Thank you for your patience in watching this and have a nice day. Bye!